Well, welcome to Christ and Culture. This is Pastor Jeff Short, your Bible teacher and cultural analyst. And today we're going to be looking at remarks by football place kicker Harrison Butker from the famous Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions of last year. And we're going to look at some of the remarks that he made that have caused the leftists, the liberals, the social Marxist, the woke crowd, the Democrats, and the people who are trying to take our country in a secular humanistic direction, the feminist, the LGBTQ people, the abortionists, all of the wrong kind of people and the crowd, wrong crowd. They're all up in arms because this place kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs has decided to be outspoken in his advocacy for motherhood and a wife being at home raising the children and keeping the home and looking more in the traditional family structure. And so he's advocating that. He is what they call a traditionalist Roman Catholic, and that is someone who holds to the traditions of the Catholic Church. Now, they happen to line up a lot, quite often, with biblical Christian teachings, Reformation Christian teachings, but they do so for a different reason. The Reformation was a movement in the 16th century, started by the likes of people like Martin Luther, and then continued by people like John Calvin and others, who believed that the church had gone astray and needed to go back to the Bible, go back to the source, the revelation of God given in His Word, the Scriptures. And so they reformed the visible church on the basis of scriptural authority. The Bible alone was a motto of the Reformation. Now, the Roman Catholic Church don't have that motto. They don't believe that it's Bible alone. They believe it's most of the time sola ecclesia, church alone, the hierarchy alone. And so in their tradition, the Roman Catholic tradition, they hold to what the church has always taught from generation to generation to generation. Well, that isn't actually accurate because the church, for the longest time, didn't teach many of the things that you have to have now as to be a member of the Roman Catholic Church in good standing, such as a lot of the Marian dogmas, which the early church knew nothing about as far as the evidence as we can tell. So the theory is that the Roman Catholic Church holds to the traditions that were taught and handed down from generation to generation. The reality is that that tradition gets modified ever so slightly as the generation after generation, as generation go through history, so that what the Roman Catholic Church is holding on to is its tradition. What biblical Christians hold on to is the Bible. Now, they're very consistent on often many points. For example, marriage and the family, and the role of men and women, and sanctity of human life. And so we have a lot in common with traditionalist Roman Catholics. So there is a lot in common that I have, for example, with the Kansas City Chiefs kicker, and his remarks. I agree most of the way with his remarks. So what are his remarks? Well, before I get into this article, we're going to look at an article that was found in Yahoo News, and it's going to outline a little bit of the controversy that Harrison Butker got into. But let me tell you what his main remarks were before I get into the whole article. And here is what caught the ire of most of the feminists and the leftists. He said during his commencement ceremony, so this is a Roman Catholic, small Roman Catholic college, invited him to give the commencement ceremony. And so he came, accepted, and that is him right here, Harrison Butker. And he gave these remarks to a Roman Catholic crowd, and he is a Roman Catholic traditionalist, as I said. And so it says right here, this is a quote from his commencement speech. How many of you sitting here now, about to cross this stage, are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Now he's addressing the female graduates, addressing women, the young women specifically here. Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. So he is stressing he's stressing the traditional role of women as wives and mothers. And that actually happens to be the biblical model for womanhood, that the vast majorities, 90 percentile and up, will be wives. They will marry, and then they will have children, and they will be mothers of children, and they will raise those children in the home in a more or less traditional family structure where the man goes out and brings home the resources, and the wife is cooking and keeping house and as a homemaker, and also raising the children and keeping the fires burning, home fires burning, while the man is away from the home during the day, and then he returns at night, and they have a family life together. And that is very offensive. That kind of comment is very offensive to today's modern feminists. It's also very offensive to liberal leftist Democratic men who are also brainwashed in this 30, 40-year project of feminism. The Gloria Steinams and the Bella Abzugs and all of the famous feminist writers and authors and speakers, they have been working tirelessly for 3 or 4 decades trying to convince everyone that a woman who stays home with the children is a slave to her house, and she's a domestic slave, she's a domestic servant, and men are exploiting women and keeping them shackled and keeping down their potential. And so the only way, the feminists have been saying, the only way that women can meet their full potential and enjoy life and be free from the patriarchy, that's another big phrase, the patriarchy, is to break out of the home and have their own careers and pursue their own goals and dreams, and have to, if they want to get married, that's fine, but they have to, the marriage has to be flexible enough to allow the women to work full-time outside of the home and to be CEOs and corporate executives and get high-paying jobs and be power brokers and do all kinds of the things that men do, because the feminist ideal is that women can do anything that men can do and should do everything that men do, and the roles can be totally interchanged, and the man could stay home and take care of kids, or they could just take the kids to a daycare and they both have their careers, and then they come home at 6 o'clock and they sit down and they order carry out from the Chinese restaurant down the street, and they go about their own separate, almost like they're single. And many of them now, families that are formed under feminist principles, are essentially childless. There's a childless movement where the couple just doesn't have kids because they can spend more time and attention and money and resources on themselves. And so there is a growing backlash against this feminist ideology that is saturating our society and brainwashing all the children in schools, in colleges, and on television and movies, especially the woke movies that they've been putting out, showing the girl boss and the superhero women and saving the world, saving the day, beating up the guys, take 5 guys come at a woman and she beats them all up and leaves them half dead on the street. That kind of movie theme we see all over the place. And Harrison Butker just wanders right into the midst of that and drops some biblical truths on the crowd. And they liked it. They didn't boo him. They weren't complaining. But when the media, the secular media, got hold of this, they tried to get Butker canceled. They want him to lose his job. They want the Kansas City Chiefs to actually fire him. But let me read a little bit of this article. This is the Chiefs, the Kansas City Chiefs, the football team that he plays on. CEO's wife and daughter respond to Harrison Butker controversy. Kansas City Chiefs CEO Clark Hunt's wife and eldest daughter are weighing in on the controversy surrounding kicker Harrison Butker's comments at the speech at a Catholic college. Tavia Hunt has been married to the billionaire businessman for more than 30 years. She shared her thoughts on being a stay-at-home mom 5 days after the athlete sparked mixed reactions over his remarks at Benedictine College, Atchison, Kansas, in which he said most female graduates would be most excited about marriage and motherhood. So Butker was saying that most of the women who are graduating actually desire and dream of being married and having children. And that is their highest fulfillment for most of them. That is exactly in line with the biblical vision that God created women for. He created women, for the most part, to fulfill the vision of being a wife and being a mother. He did not create them primarily, as is the feminist dogma today, to be out and about in the marketplace, competing with men and climbing the corporate ladder and pulling in big salaries and going directly out there and earning the bread and resources for the family. That is not the vision that the Bible gives for womanhood. Although that is the vision that feminism gives for womanhood. So you can see there's a contradiction between what God's vision for women is, his intended design for women is, and what the Bible is against what the feminist movement is teaching. And so Butker actually did contradict the feminist vision, and that's why he's getting into trouble. Now, this owner's wife said, "I've always encouraged my daughters to be highly educated and chase their dreams," who also shares daughters Gracie Hunt, Evie Hunt, and son Noble Hunt with Clark, wrote an Instagram alongside throwback pics of herself and her kids. "I want them to know that they can do whatever they want that honors God, but I also want them to know that I believe finding a spouse who loves and honors you or before himself and raising a family together is one of the great blessings this world has to offer." So she's saying that basically she's trying to just say, I agree with him, basically that being a mother and wife is the greatest thing a woman can offer, and yet I also encourage women to pursue their dreams, whatever they are. So she's kind of taking a middle of the road. Tavia continued, "Affirming motherhood and praising your wife, as well as highlighting the sacrifice and dedication it takes to be a mother, is not bigoted. It is empowering to acknowledge that a woman's hard work in raising children is not in vain. Countless highly educated women devote their lives to nurturing and guiding their children. Someone disagreeing with that doesn't make them hateful. It simply means that you have a different opinion." Okay, so she's trying to tell people, hey, calm down. He stated his opinion, and I agree with a lot of it. And if you don't, well, that's okay. He doesn't have to believe everything you believe, and you don't have to believe everything he believes, but he has the freedom to say what he wants to say. Tavia, who did not mention Harrison by name, encouraged people to celebrate families, motherhood, and fatherhood. Well, that's a good, safe message. "Our society desperately needs dedicated men and women to raise up and train the next generation in the way they should go. We need more dialogue and values, in my opinion, in this country and less hate." So she is trying to criticize the criticizers of him and say, just let it go. I mean, this is a Catholic traditionalist football player who is speaking at a Catholic college at their graduation. So the setting is very appropriate. He's giving them the Catholic teaching on marriage and family. And so don't come in and criticize him for doing this without understanding the context. He is at a Catholic church, Catholic college, and they are Catholic students, more or less. I think most of them are. And so if he talks like a Catholic, don't criticize him for talking like a Catholic at a Catholic commencement ceremony. Makes sense. Gracie shared her thoughts on Harrison's May 17th speech. "I've had the most incredible mom who had the stability to stay home and be with us kids growing up." Okay, that's good. That's a good point. And understand that there are many women out there who can't make that decision, rather, who won't make that decision. But for many, for me and my life, I know it was really formative in shaping me and my siblings into who we are. Oh, it definitely is, because that's the plan of God, more or less. So it is not the plan of God for the children to be raised in daycare, and then as soon as they get old enough just to be raised by the school teachers at the public schools and indoctrinated there, and then go off to college and be indoctrinated there. The plan of God is that the parents pass on the values and the moral and spiritual teachings of the family to the children, and that can only come when the parents are hands-on with the children, and that mostly means that the woman is there 24/7 with the children, guiding and directing them and making sure that they are going in the right direction. When asked if she understood what Harrison was talking about in his speech, Gracie replied, "For sure, and I really respect Harrison and his Christian faith and what he's accomplished on and off the field." So she is positive too. Looks like the owners are backing him and standing with him and saying, no, we're not going to criticize him. Harrison, 28, has not responded publicly to backlash over his speech, in which he said that the female graduates directly, "How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about marriage and children you will bring into this world." So he's casting the biblical vision that women are going to 90 percentile upward are going to pursue marriage and family life over a 40-hour or 50 or 60-hour career week. And when you think about that, 40 and 50 and 60 hours that a high charging executive has to put in to climb the corporate ladder, that's a lot of hours away from children. And that's a lot of children that are not being influenced by their parents. And so you ask, why is our society so messed up today? Well, one of the reasons is that women are off pursuing all kinds of other things rather than pursuing the primary purpose, which is marriage and family. Meanwhile, Harrison also said that things like abortion, IVS, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as growing support for degenerate cultural values in the media all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. He's exactly right there. You can't argue with him. He's simply doing an autopsy on our dying culture, and he's saying abortion is killing us. In vitro fertilization, where they fertilize 5 to 10 embryos and then pick out the best one and let the others die or freeze them or just keep them or destroy them or experiment on them. And that's the cultural death. Surrogacy, euthanasia, killing older people as growing part of the degenerate culture. Cultural values in the media, who can question that? The Hollywood corrupt values, television, all stem from perversiveness of disorder. In a different part of his speech, he quoted a lyric from Taylor Swift, who is dating Chiefs star tight end Travis Kelce, referring to the 14 Grammy winner solely as his teammate's girlfriend. Okay, well, so what? That's a nothing burger comment right there. Amid the controversy, NFL has issued their own response to the Chiefs kicker remarks. Harrison Butker gave a speech in his personal capacity. The league's senior vice president and chief diversity inclusion officer, Jonathan Bean, said in a statement to People. So here's a woke person, a leftist, a radical social Marxist Democrat who is trying to distance himself from these remarks. In his views, his views are not those of the NFL as an organization. The NFL is steadfast in our commitment to inclusion, which only makes our league stronger. So that was a wimpy, weak statement by the NFL. They're trying to keep everybody happy and trying to say, oh, well, we don't agree with his statements because we want to love everybody, even the feminists and the radical leftists, and they're trying to smooth that over. Now, here are some of the women who have commented. You can bet that these are feminists. Here's a Marin Morris says, the Bone Singer reacted to Harrison's speech with a reference to social media trend in which women say whether they'd rather encounter a bear or a man while in the woods. Under a video of the NFL player's speech, she wrote, I choose the bear. Okay, so she's trying to criticize him because she thinks she has to stand up for feminism because she's so entrenched in it. What point was Harrison Butker's really trying to make to women in his graduation speech about their present-day life choices? Maria Schreiber said, did he really want them, aka us, to believe that our lives truly only begin when we lean into our vocation of wife and mother? No, he wasn't trying to say that was the only point of your life. He's trying to bring back the idea that, hey, that's the primary life direction for most women. So stop trying to brainwash them to have these careers and take away from their primary calling, which is exactly what the Bible says. Primary calling is to be a wife and a mother. I don't understand why everybody is knickers in a twist. Everybody Loves Raymond actor shared in her video. He gave a commencement speech. The audience applauded twice during the speech and gave him a standing ovation at the end. So clearly they enjoyed what he was saying. The guy is espousing his own views. Yeah, so I think most people now are taking the position, hey, whatever he wants to say, he's free to say it. And these, Bill Maher was critical of the speech, saying that he's not me. That's not what I would say. And some of the other. Now, there are virtue signalers, and so there are certain NFL football players who are weighing in and saying, I wouldn't say that. Yeah, because they're not courageous enough to actually speak up and say, hey, we have a feminist culture that's gone off the rails and gone way overboard, and that we need to rein that in and begin to support women who want to stay at home and raise children the way the Bible describes it. And so, and of course, all the LGBTQ organizations, they're up in arms. They're criticizing this kicker. And so you have all the leftists, the liberals, the Democrats, LGBTQ people, pro-abortion people. They're all mad at him because he actually spoke the truth. Now, what does the Bible teach about this? Well, it's very clear. The Bible envisions for women, like I said before, for the most part, in the vast, vast, vast majority of cases, women, their highest end, their highest goal in life will be to get married and raise a family. That is their primary purpose. In fact, in the book of Genesis, the very first couple, there was Adam, and Eve was given to Adam as a helper, a helpmate. And they were to then raise a family. And Eve was to come alongside Adam and help him pursue and fulfill his calling that God has given him about attending the Garden of Eden, the original couple, Adam and Eve. And her calling from the early chapters of Genesis was to be a helper and a helpmate to Adam in his calling. And that is the pattern that we see in the New Testament. We see it all through the Old Testament. We see it in the New Testament. And that's a very high calling. For example, to raise a family, to raise children, to do it right. I mean, we see a lot of people today who are raising children. We see a lot of women in the inner city raising a lot of children on welfare. No father in the home. They never married. They have multiple fathers for their multiple children. When I was pastoring in Chicago, there were women, single women, who had 5, 6, 7 children and no husband in the home. And different fathers for different children. But they all got a government check for the number of children they had. So there are a lot of children that don't have fathers in the inner city, and a lot of the women are raising them all alone, and they're getting paid to do it from the government, housing, food, child support from the government. And this is incentivizing single parent motherhood. And it's bad. It's a disaster. Because the kids, especially the boys, don't grow up with discipline. They don't grow up with a godly male role model, or no manly role model at all. So they end up taking to the streets, and then they turn to gangs, and things go down from bad to worse. And so we do need a movement back to the more traditional view of marriage and family. We need a more traditional view of womanhood, where they're not taught nonstop from the public schools all the way into college and through every media outlet, secular messaging saying, women, get a career, women, get a career, plan for a career, train for a career, go into debt, $50,000 to get a high school, college degree in a field, or $100,000, go massive into debt to train for a career, when in fact the thing that is most fulfilling for most women is marriage and family. So there's a disconnect there. There's a contradiction there. The Bible has it right. The Bible describes reality as it is. Feminism is a false reality. It is teaching women that their highest goal, their highest end, is to be a successful career woman, to be a woman who goes out to the world and conquers the marketplace and makes money and makes her own decisions and is an independent woman. That's the feminist ideal. And that is causing women to be in distress today. They are lost. If you go on TikTok, if you go on YouTube, if you go on Twitter and hear women talking today, especially in the economic times today with the inflation and the high rent and the high housing costs and the high gasoline, a lot of them are very distressed and saying, look, I was following the game plan. I went to college, and now I'm out of college and I can't find a job and I can't pay my bills, and it's so frustrating. Well, yeah, because you were told a lie. And that's what Harrison Butker said to those girls. He said, you have been fed a lie by feminism that you have to go out and make it on your own instead of getting married and settling down and being a homemaker and raising kids and being married. And so he spoke the truth, and we need more people like him to speak the truth. I hope this has been a helpful commentary. We'll see you back next week. God bless.